Hey guys, welcome back to Scuderia Car Parts. Today we're going to do another one of our kind of overview videos where we go through a catalogue of parts from one of our suppliers that we work with and kind of explain why you would order something, what you would need to order in conjunction with the other things to make them work, and generally just our kind of recommendations. So we've done a lot of Novitec stuff, and today we're going to do something a little bit different, which is we're going to focus on Brabus, and particularly the G63, and a kind of high-level focus on the Widestar kit particularly. Now, we've done more of these in the UK than anybody else has. We're talking literally dozens in just about every spec you can imagine. We've done a couple of supply-only kits, but it's kind of mainly they've been supply and fit. So we're really kind of intimately familiar with how everything works, what electronics are required, a couple of hiccups that we've managed to iron out and things like that. So yeah, let's go through all the stuff. And I think the thing that we'll start with is, as I just mentioned, the Widestar itself. So the Widestar is the wide body kit that Brabus offers. And it basically adds about 10 centimeters of width to the car overall. And it's already quite a big car, but it just adds that presence and that stance that the car really needs. I mean, to my eye, this is what a G63 should look like. I always think they look a bit kind of weedy when they don't have it. And I think that's just a product of me seeing so many of these things. My eye is just so trained in. In terms of what you actually get in the Widestar kit itself, you get a new front bumper, you get new wheel arches for the front and rear arches, and then you get a rear bumper. And then within the front bumper, you've got some additional running lights at the lower level, which are really nice. And they kind of hook up to the other daytime running lights on the car, like the ones around the headlights. So that's the Widestar kit, and then obviously you can see there's a bunch of add-ons that you can then put on the car to kind of complete the kit. And so we'll go through those in a bit more detail now as well. Quick point to mention, some of these parts you have to have the Widestar in order to install them, and I'll mention those ones. And then a couple of them you cannot install if you have the Widestar. So you kind of caters for all kind of customers. You don't have to go whole hog. You can just add a few little bits and bobs to Brabus the car if you don't necessarily want to go and do everything. So the first thing to mention is the carbon under-eye protection for the Widestar. So in the kit, normally this piece here is basically to be painted. So it would be matched to body color. It looks really nice, but a good way to accent it is to get this carbon fiber version just to make it a little bit more aggressive. The next thing is front fascia inserts, which are these guys here that go in the air intakes on the kind of lower outer side of the front bumper. They're really difficult to get hold of. The lead time on them for some reason is just massive. If you're really patient, they're well worth waiting for, but they do have the longest lead time of anything that we sell from Brabus. Next thing is, and this is again Widestar specific, is the Widestar carbon insert. So as normal, this kit comes with these guys in basically, again, to be painted form. So they're polyurethane. Prime them, paint them. Some people do them in a contrast color, some people do them in black, and then other people will do them in body color. All three are really nice in their own kind of way. Typically we do them in a nice matte black, and that to us adds a really nice bit of contrast to the car's kind of shape, because you can lose quite quickly the accents if it's all body color. So yeah, having them in black, which contrasts really nicely against the white cars particularly. We've just finished doing a Magno orange and a Magno green car. Those were done in matte black too, and they look wicked. But then I've seen cars that are kind of baby blue that have these in body color. I've seen black cars that have them in reds, and yeah, so it's just basically whatever you want can be done, but the carbon fiber is a really nice thing to add. Now we're moving on to stuff that you don't have to have the Widestar to install. So the power dome or the bonnet attachment, you can just whack that on any car. Looks awesome, makes it look really aggressive. And then the rear spoiler. Now there are actually two versions of this. This is the carbon fiber rear spoiler, and you'll notice that the end plate here is in carbon, and then it's also got this lower strake through the wing that is also in carbon fiber. And then the rest of it is painted to whatever color you like, black, body color, whatever. The other version is down here, and you'll see that the end plates are no longer in carbon, they are just painted to whatever color you like. And then you've also lost that lower strake to the wing, which was in carbon fiber. Again, that can be installed without the Widestar. And then the next thing to mention is if you order the front fascia attachment, that's basically a front lip spoiler for non-Widestar cars. Again, it comes with this piece here to be painted in a contrast color. this carbon underride protection is particular to that front lip spoiler, different to the Widestar. So yeah, you would order that, install it, and it would, again, just add some drama and a bit of aggression to the front of the car. Carbon rear diffuser, again, this is for non-Widestar cars, so you would install this on a car without Widestar to, as I just mentioned, add some extra aggression, bit of contrast, bit of sportiness to the rear of the car. And then finally, we've got the carbon mirror caps. Literally does what it says on the tin. You can install this on any car, looks really, really nice, and actually not particularly dear for what they are. And then the other thing to mention is that I think the GPS antenna is actually within the mirror, and the carbon mirror cap from Brabus takes this into account and it continues to work correctly, so that's fine. And then next we'll have a look at the special accessories. I think I've kind of understood why they've separated these two things out. In my head, I wouldn't have put these two things in necessarily a different category, but I think the bits we just talked about were kind of aerodynamic in some way, shape or form, and these are purely for aesthetics. So these are also some really, really key bits. The carbon roof attachment has these two lights on them, so the light bar, finished in carbon fiber, looks absolutely amazing, can be installed on any car regardless if it's Widestar or not. Carbon radiator grille attachment, again, same thing, looks really good. Lead time can be a little bit long, but again, well worth waiting for if you can. Carbon spare wheel cover, that does exactly what it says in the tin. That just goes in place of the original spare wheel cover. Now there is actually an alternative, which we quite like, or I quite like, which is the carbon rear door attachment. So basically you can just remove the spare wheel completely, install this really nice kind of carbon plate with the Brabus logo, and you know, the car just looks infinitely more sporty than it did before. You can then add carbon fiber door handles, which is really, really nice. And they come with a Brabus logo on them. And then there's a few bits and bobs that you can add just to kind of add the last 10% to the car, which is easy entry. So that facilitates the rear doors opening to 90 degrees. So really useful if you've got like kids or dogs or anything like that. You can just put these hinges on and they'll give you a really, really huge aperture for the rear door through which you can kind of get in. Light carpet, you know, open the door, puts Brabus on the floor, looks quite nice. And then if you're really, really paranoid, we can bulletproof the car for you. It's pretty serious. If you go and have a look at some videos, there's like, you know, videos of these things being shot by AK-47s, and it's as if a fly's hit it on the motorway. It's quite funny. But obviously weighs a ton. I think blast proof, can take up to 7.62 caliber rounds. It's pretty serious stuff. So if you are a warlord of some description or a kind of mafioso, get in touch and we will happily armor your car for you. So the next thing to talk about are the adventure upgrades. So basically Brabus will do one of two things. Either you can go for the kind of, I don't know, I guess I'd call it quite urban Widestar kit, and then you can add the roof bar and all that stuff to basically just make it an FU mobile, and they're wicked and I love them. The alternative is the adventure kit. So this is to make the car kind of more off-road focused. And yeah, it's pretty legit. Like some of this stuff is really, really well thought through. So the adventure package as a whole, I mean, this is just everything we're about to talk about. So yeah, we'll discount that for a second. Spare wheel holder, slightly different design, leaves the wheel exposed, kind of much more rugged and hard wearing, and comes with this kind of frame as well, this tubular frame, looks really good. The carbon wind deflector with LED headlights. Again, this is basically the same thing as the light bar that we just spoke about, slightly different design. And then the other thing you can do, which is really cool, is the height increase. So this is a replacement suspension set which raises the car by like, I think 30 to 50 mil, depending on how you set it up, but it's pretty major. Another one that we often get inquiries about is the bull bar, or front guard as they call it. So that's this here. You can spec it in certain countries from Mercedes. This is a very similar design, but slightly different, kind of a little bit more aggressive than theirs, and can be installed. And if you want to install the winch, which is down here, you have to have that because that's the kind of chassis that the winch mounts to, or how the winch mounts to the chassis, rather. There's also the roof rack that you can then put kind of tents and, you know, as they've got shovels and axes and all that kind of good adventure stuff. And it has a little ladder on the back for easy access, which is quite nice. And that's the one just here. So last couple of bits now are, you know, the exhaust system. Really nice, does exactly what it says in the tin. You just install it. It comes in either chrome finish or black finish tips, black being the most popular. And it's a direct replacement for the Mercedes unit. And that is to say there's no remote or anything like that. You just install the exhaust. It's cat back, so no warning lights, and OPF back as well. And then you just use the button on the interior to open and close the valves. Sounds really good. Does exactly what it needs to. You can also get the blow-off adapter. So if you want, the kind of whoosh thing from the blow-off valve, then that's what you install. It sounds really cool, a bit over the top, but it's a G63 and it's probably a Widestar. So over the top is kind of the name of the game. And then the power extras. Now this is where things get a little bit more interesting. So Brabus offers for the G63 3 different power levels. So the first is a 700, which is just a piggyback module that you install into the kind of can lines and everything, and it changes the engine timing and fueling and all that stuff, and kind of the turbo boost. And you get 700 horsepower. So really good, sell loads and loads of them, very easy to install. From there, we can go up to an 800 kit. Now, the 800 kit is similarly also a piggyback device, which you install. The difference here being that it obviously amps everything up a little bit, and one of the main ways it does that is through turbo boost. So what we need to do is we need to remove the turbochargers from the car, we send them to the Brabus factory, they get reinforced so that they can withstand kind of higher boost levels, and the turbines can spin at higher RPMs, etc., and then we'll send them back, install them. So when you've got the reinforced turbos and the power kit kind of piggyback module, that's when you have your 800. Quite a lot more expensive, but they're no joke. They are so fast. And then the version that's not mentioned here, and perhaps we'll get onto this in a little bit more detail in a moment, is the 900 kit. So that's a 900 horsepower G63. I'm actually less familiar with exactly what they do, but from my understanding, it is things like reinforced turbos. They bore out the engine to increase the capacity. I'm sure that they'll do some stuff with the kind of top end and the valves and things like that to reinforce them too. Maybe they'll raise the RPM limit. I mean, it's kind of a bit of a dark art, and I think that they want to keep their IP quite protected. So it's not necessarily readily available information, but safe to say, give them the car, and you will get a reliable 900 horsepower from your G63, which is absurd. In terms of how you can actually get that, it's not as simple as just saying that you want it. The car has to be at the factory, and usually the 900s are limited runs, so that's stuff like the Rocket 900 or the XLP Super Black 900. These were essentially invite only, like you could not get a slot for love nor money. However, I do know of a way to get a 900 kit, so if you would like one, let me know, and perhaps it's something that we can discuss in some more detail. From there, there's obviously the start-stop memory, so that turns off the automatic stop-start coming on. And then from there, there's the adventure height increase that we mentioned. Ride control suspension, that's actually a lowering module, so if you've got a Widestar, you can lower the car by, again, I think 30 or 40 mil. And then finally it gets onto wheels. Wheels, pretty self-explanatory. In terms of the most popular ones that we do, monoblock Z, usually the Platinum Edition is very popular. Monoblock Y in the various colors too. Monoblock F's another good one. We don't tend to do much of T, G, or R. We do more of R than the others, but less than the kind of main ones. The monoblock M is obviously classic Brabus wheel design, and then the HD is usually what people spec with the adventure kit. Now the newest one that they've announced is the ZV, which is something we've only sold like a handful of. Well, as you can see, it's basically the monoblock Z, which is a 10-spoke, but kind of doubled. So I think this is probably 20, I haven't counted. But the real key here is you've got this center cover or center cap cover that hides the bolts, and that looks really, really nice. And then from there, there's just TPMS, center caps, etc. Interiors can only be done at Brabus, so we've done quite a few, but those are the cars that have been built by Brabus for us. So it's pretty expensive, but the level of customizability is absurd. Like whatever you want done can be and will be done. It's just a case of how many zeros you want to add to the bill. And then the last thing that we'll talk about is kind of the very special edition. So there's the XLP, which they've done here. We've sold a few of these now, and essentially what they do is they take your G63, they hack off this back section of it, and then install this kind of rear bed, turn it into a pickup truck, but a kind of double cab pickup truck, so you can still seat 5 adults in it. They then raise it. I mean, I'm not a tall guy, I'm like 5'9", but when I stand next to it, I feel like an Action Man figure. They're just so big. And then usually it would be 800 horsepower. 900 is available on certain models, 700 too if you wanted it, but if you're spending the money, you may as well go a whole hog. And this is something that, as I said, can only be done at the Brabus factory. So if it's something you're interested in, please do contact us. We're very familiar with how the process works, and we'll be glad to guide you through the whole process. But that gives you an overview of what the things do, what we kind of would recommend. And if you've got any questions, drop them in the comments below or get in touch with me directly via email. As always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.